Hey, how's it going, everybody? Happy New Year to you. My name is Creal. Before we begin, what I wanted to do is just kind of introduce my channel to you. So I make videos here on YouTube about a variety of guitar-related content. A lot of what I talk about is gear-related stuff, guitar technology, and it all sort of revolves around the heavy metal or heavy guitar sort of universe. I'm here to help you get the best possible guitar tones and to help you improve your guitar playing regardless of the genre that you're interested in. So a lot of the concepts that I share on the channel are applicable to other styles as well. So in this particular video, what I'm going to do is briefly cover the history of the djent genre. Okay, so try saying djent genre 10 times. It's extremely difficult. I had to practice it a lot to say it in this video. The second thing I'm going to do is give you some advice on how to improve your right hand technique. So we'll talk about how to hold the pick, palm mute, how to palm mute on the guitar and find the sweet spot with your right hand on the guitar. We're going to learn how to play different subdivisions of the beat, like 16th notes or 8th note triplets. We're going to learn how to do that along with a metronome, as well as an app called Drum Genius. And the last thing that I'll do is I'll teach you how to alternate pick and palm mute at the same time, which is sort of essential stuff for playing in the metal genre. So if you're new to guitar, if you're more of a beginner or intermediate player, I think you're gonna find this video incredibly valuable for your guitar playing. So stick around, you're not gonna wanna miss this. Okay, so as an educator, I try to keep my channel focused on educational guitar content. My goal is to deliver the best possible information on the topics that I cover. Several years ago, I played guitar in a sort of progressive metal band. We toured all over the United States. We achieved what I would call some moderate success, meaning that we sold our own merch, we owned our own vehicle, we traveled the country, we made a lot of connections, made a lot of friends in different places. We started to sort of put our stamp on the genre of metal that we were playing, and we just had a great time doing it. So to me, that's successful. I was able to do that, and then after that, I stopped touring a little bit and I focused on playing music in the Nashville music scene. So I played country music, psychedelic rock music, post-rock. I was just involved in a lot of different styles of music. It's hard for me to pick just one, so I play as much as I can, and I play everything. I'm very familiar with what it feels like to play through a tube amp, okay? And I had to set up my own tube amp on stage every night and load it into the van or the trailer. So I'm familiar with that. About 6 or 7 years ago, in around 2015, the Line 6 Helix came out, and I dove headfirst into the world of amp modeling. I primarily did that out of convenience, and still to this day, most of the time when I'm recording something or even when I'm playing live, I'm using amp modeling technology. The reason for that is I think it sounds great. I think it's the most practical way to play your guitar in the studio or even live. And I just think the technology is really exciting, and it's come a long way since its inception in probably the early 90s when Digitech started coming out with stuff. So the reason I mention that is it's probably safe to assume that most guitar players that watch this video are in a situation where playing a 100-watt tube amp is just not practical. But the concepts that I'm going to show you in this video are applicable across any type of setup that you have in the guitar world. Even if you have a crappy little practice amp like an old Fender or PV Marshall practice amp, the things that I'm going to show you in this video are applicable. And over the next several weeks, what I'm going to do is make some videos around how to get a great djent tone, how to get a great metal guitar sound out of your amp. So I'm going to cover the Line 6 Helix stuff. I'm going to show you how to build a great guitar tone with the Line 6 Helix. The second thing I'm going to do is show you how to make a guitar tone with the Yamaha THR. So these are all really common practice amps or modeling technology that a lot of people are using. So as far as this video is concerned, the point is just to use whatever you have. Whatever you have is fine. The technique that I'm going to cover, it revolves around your hands and your fingers and, you know, how to hold a guitar pick. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. Okay, so as I mentioned prior in this video, I wanted to discuss the history of the djent genre. Okay, and just by me saying that and calling djent a genre, I'm probably going to upset a bunch of people. I'm so sorry. But in this video, we'll use that word out of convenience, even though that djent really falls into the progressive metal category. And that's a little complicated because technically this is progressive metal. So what is djent? Well, it's a word coined by Periphery guitarist Misha probably sometime around 2007 or 2008. And the word itself is an onomatopoeia of the sound that the guitar makes when you're chugging away at a note with a lot of gain, or a power chord for that matter. So lots of amp gain, a noise gate or two, and an extremely down-tuned guitar is usually required to make the djent sound. When Misha coined this term, he was garnering quite a following on MySpace and then later YouTube with his Bulb demos. That's what he was called before Periphery. He called himself Bulb. Not sure why. What I think Misha was doing during this time was developing his own sound, being mostly inspired by Friedrich Thornendal of Meshuggah, John Petrucci of Dream Theater, Ron Jarzambek of Spastic Inc., as well as the infamous Alan Holdsworth. Those gentlemen are probably the most influential modern guitarists of our time. And so let's go back to the 90s and talk a little bit about groove metal. Okay, so what is groove metal, you ask? Well, it's the precursor to djent and started to show up in the early 90s. For example, when Pantera released Cowboys from Hell in 1990, which was said to be the first groove metal album. Later on in the 90s, Meshuggah released an album called Destroy, Erase, Improve in 1995, and when the thrash metal band Sepultura released the album Roots in 1996, groove metal was officially a part of the metal universe with those monumental albums. Before the albums that I mentioned came out, all of those bands were more or less involved in the thrash metal genre, so playing really, really fast riffs, the stuff that was popular in the 80s, kind of how Metallica started out with thrash metal and later evolved into a more accessible, slower, heavier, more pop-oriented band. So the point of all that is they were all thrash bands. Pantera was actually a glam band, but by the mid-90s, many of these previously fast-playing thrash metal bands were experimenting with syncopation, swinging rhythms, and leaving space in their music. Probably because what they were trying to do at the time was develop a new sound, since they were completely thrashed out by that point. If you want a sample of what this sounds like, go back and listen to Meshuggah's Contradictions Collapse, and you'll get a taste of a much thrashier Meshuggah from 1992. So keep in mind, also in the mid-90s, you have quite a few other bands inventing another heavy genre of music called nu metal. Nu metal encompasses bands like Korn, Limp Bizkit, POD, Mudvayne, Deftones, and Sevendust, just to name a few. These bands were different than bands like Meshuggah and Sepultura, mainly because the vocal style was rap-oriented, was more melodic, and had a much broader commercial appeal. You can kind of understand how these genres overlapped, but with the Protodjent bands like Meshuggah, Pantera, and Sepultura going for a much more extreme and truly metal vocal style. I think at some point I'd like to make a history of djent video that fully covers every detail of the genre and how it came to be. But for now, I just wanted to share the history behind modern djent music and just kind of share that perspective because it will actually inform your guitar playing. If you learn the history of a particular genre of music, it's going to help you understand, and I think knowing that information will help you sound better as a musician as well. Okay, so now that we've discussed a little bit about the history of djent, let's get into the techniques associated with djent guitar playing. All right, so it is officially time to djent it up. So let's first talk about how to hold the guitar pick. So I've got a guitar pick made by this company called Dava, and it has this nice rubber grip on there. I've used these for years. These are my favorite guitar picks for almost every playing application. I almost never switch anymore. But what I would say is, if you're new to guitar playing, or maybe you're in a rut or something, just buy a bunch of different types of guitar picks and experiment with as many different guitar picks as you possibly can, and try to find the one that really suits you. And also just communicate with other guitar players. I got hip to the Dava pick, especially this size, this larger size, from a guitar player friend of mine who actually plays jazz guitar. So talk to people, ask them what they use, find out what the pros use, but ultimately just find a guitar pick that works for you and for the type of music that you're playing. I would recommend finding a guitar pick that is at least 1 millimeter thick. I think these are right around 1.5, maybe 1.25, somewhere in there. A thicker guitar pick is probably best for djent and for metal. So now that we've talked a little bit about the guitar pick, let's talk about how to hold the guitar pick. So for several years, when I first started playing guitar, I actually held the guitar pick with 2 fingers, okay? So I held it like this, and that seemed to work for most of the guitar playing that I was doing, which at the time when I was a beginner, it was a lot of just like strumming chords, you know, and doing that kind of thing. But later on, after I had been playing guitar for a few years, I took a lesson with a guitar player who had studied at Musicians Institute in the early 90s, and he told me to actually put the pick on the side of your first finger. So it's like an extension. He described it as an extension of your fingernail on your first finger, your pointer finger, and then your thumb encloses over the top like that, and then all of your fingers are in a line, and I call this the Lego hand sort of thing because it just looks like a Lego guy's hand. It's very comfortable to play like this. It wasn't at first, but it is now for me, and all of my fingers are relaxed, and it's the closest thing to the relaxed point. So if you sort of let your hand flop like a dead fish or something, and let it be totally relaxed, then put the pick over your first finger, enclose it with your thumb, and then boom. To me, that's the most natural way to hold a guitar pick, and I think it works for most people, although there are other ways of holding the guitar pick as well. I see a lot of guitar players, when they're playing, stick their fingers straight out like this, and what that does is it creates tension down the arm. I'm sure you've probably wiggled your fingers like this and noticed that your finger muscles are actually connected all the way back to like your elbow area, whatever this is called. What is this called? The weenus or something? It's a great term. So what you want to do is minimize tension. You also don't want to have your fingers in like this. The opposite of this is this, right? And neither one is good. So what you want to do is develop that just relaxed thing so you can just be chugging freely. So what I would suggest that you do is you try to investigate some of the guitar players that play with the style that you like. How do they hold the guitar pick? How just look closely at their right hand. Maybe you're a big fan of Friedrich from Meshuggah. This is very similar to how he picks. I think he sort of scrunches his knuckles up a little bit more than I do, but this is how I hold the guitar pick, and I encourage you just to try it out and see if it works for you. Okay, so the second thing that we're going to talk about is the sweet spot. Okay, so you're going to want to plug into your amp, turn the gain up all the way. Hopefully you've got at least an overdrive channel on your amp, and you can do this with just about any amp. I'm actually using the Yamaha THR, which is my main practice amp, and I've got it mic'd up. I'll show you a picture of what my setup for this video looks like. And I'm playing on just a very simple high gain setting with the gain up fairly high. But what you're going to want to do is just take like an E power chord on your guitar. So I'm playing an 8-string. You can try this on the lower strings if you want, but a majority of the guitar players watching this probably just have a normal 6-string guitar. And what you want to do is just play that E. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the heel of your right hand and you're going to rest it right next to your bridge saddles of your guitar. So I'm gonna play that. Slowly move my hand towards the neck of the guitar like this. You can kind of hear that it goes from sounding really like flubby to like really tight, and then too tight, and then you can't hear the music anymore. So you can kind of see my arm comes in at a pretty relaxed angle. It sits up above the strings, okay? I'm away from the bridge. I'm not coming around across the bridge like that, which is particularly bad if you have like a tremolo on your guitar. But I'm coming in from just right above like this with my arm on the contour of the body of the guitar. And then my pick touches that low E string. And I'm experimenting to try to find the sweet spot, right? So the sweet spot is when you strike the strings with a palm mute, and what that does is it creates a pressurized response from the speaker of your speaker cabinet. It sounds tight and you get that nice low end response. That is the metal guitar sound, and that's what we want. We have to be able to chug, chug, chug away on that. So what I would do then is just experiment with that for a while and try to play different things. Okay, and I'm just playing single notes because I'm just going to assume you don't know how to play power chords. So let's talk a little bit about the left hand, the fretting hand, and at the very least, you need to know how to play a power chord. So a power chord looks like this. So, okay, I'm just gonna go to this string. We're gonna pretend like it's the lowest string on a 6-string guitar, and I'm pressing down on what would be the G note on the 3rd fret. Then I'm gonna take my 3rd finger, and I'm gonna press down on the 5th fret on the A string, playing a D note. And I'm gonna play those simultaneously. It's gonna sound like, well, it's gonna sound like this. Okay, but on an 8th string, it's gonna sound like this. Okay, so what you can kind of do is practice moving those 2 notes around. Of course, there's other versions of the power chord. You can add another octave with your pinky like this. Okay, and that's a pretty cool sound, okay? It's not my best guitar tone, but that's my main practice sound that's coming out of my Yamaha THR, which really is an amp that's designed to be used in the room. It's in the room environment. It's not really made to be mic'd up, but for the sake of this video, I've mic'd it up to show you that, you know, you don't have to have $1 million worth of gear to get a great metal tone. Okay, so the next thing that I'm gonna teach you how to do is to play different subdivisions of the beat. So djent music is really about what we call rhythmic development in music. So it's a way of using rhythm to bring the song forward, to create interest in the music. It's not focused on the harmonic aspects of music like in a piece of music by Bach or Mozart, where the rhythm is just straight 16th notes or straight 8th notes. The notes are just simply less important in djent music, and the focus is on the primal energy of rhythm and how do we use rhythm to create musical interest. And then of course in djent music we do use harmonic devices and different things to create interest, but in general it sort of takes a back seat to the importance of rhythm. So in this video, we're going to focus heavily on rhythm and how to play against different subdivisions of the beat. So I've got my trusty iPad here, okay? And what I'm going to do is open up my metronome app on here, and I'm just going to leave it at 120 beats per minute. And we're going to just play a bunch of things against just a straight quarter note, okay? So I've just changed, there's no accents on my metronome. You can listen to that. Okay, it's just a straight clicking sound. I like that because the high-pitched beeps are a little distracting. And I also like using an iPad instead of my phone so that I don't have texts or Instagram or notifications going off while I'm trying to practice and play guitar. So what we're gonna practice first is just how do you play a whole note with a metronome. So let's talk about that. Obviously, a whole note is when you let the note ring out for 4 beats in this case, so the entire duration of the measure. So let's talk about that. And everything that we're gonna play is just E. So let's check that out. Let's try it again. All right, nice simple whole notes. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna engage my palm mute, okay? Now I'm gonna play half notes. Okay? Last, I'm gonna play quarter notes. So that's sort of step one. You have to be able to hear the difference between whole notes and half notes, and then use that palm mute to play slower stuff, okay? So pause the video, spend some time doing that, and then come back in a little bit and we'll work on eighth notes and other rhythms. Okay, so let's move on to eighth notes. What do eighth notes sound like against the quarter note? Well, you're just gonna double the click. So every time you hear a click, you're gonna play 2 notes instead of 1 note like you did with quarter notes. So let's check that out. Okay, so if that tempo is too fast for you, just simply slow the metronome down to find a little bit easier tempo for you to play eighth notes at. So let's try that really quick. We're gonna slow it down from 120 to 100 and try that. So. You know, I'm not playing ridiculously heavy. I'm not really moving the strings a ton, but I am digging in to a certain degree. So when you're playing a djent music, you want to be pretty aggressive with the pick, but not too much that it gets stuck in between the strings. Like, you want to be relaxed the whole time. With anything that you're playing on the guitar, finding that relaxation point is paramount to your success. So we've been doing a little bit of playing here, but I kind of left out a really important thing. You should also be able to count along with that metronome and understand how to count. That's gonna really help your rhythmic development. Okay, so here's how you count eighth notes at 100. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, and then in a minute here, what we're gonna do is count triplets. How do you count triplets? 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So I'll count that with the metronome so you can hear that. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet. Okay, so we're gonna try playing that stuff all with a down pick. We're just worried about playing with a down pick. We're not even worried about up picking yet, okay? So let's get into that. So, eighth notes. So those are really useful rhythmic subdivisions, right? So we're just breaking things down. We're cutting it up into smaller and smaller increments. So the next thing that we're gonna do is play 16th notes at 100 using down picking. So 16th notes, how do you count those? Well, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and that's how you count 16th notes. So let's make sure we know how to play that. And the same thing goes from before. If that's too fast, just slow the metronome down. Let's slow it all the way down to like 70 and play some 16th notes there. If you can do that, all you're gonna do is increase the tempo of the metronome by, let's say, 5 beats per minute every few minutes that you're practicing. And before you know it, if you can play 16th notes with the metronome and chug and play with a palm muted sound on an E, you're on your way to being a mini James Hetfield. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we just talked about how important downpicking is to your development as a guitar player. What you're gonna do now is take everything I just showed you and then do it with an up pick, okay? And that's gonna help develop the muscles that require you to up pick. So let me show you some of that. I'll play eighth notes at 120 with an up pick. Okay, so there you go. Up picking with eighth notes. I even threw in some triplets, and then I started playing some simple patterns. So any kind of pattern that your brain or your ear can pick up on that you can play against the metronome is something that you should really spend some time developing and working with. What kind of creative patterns that are simple can you come up with? That's actually gonna help you in your practice time. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about down picking and up picking and playing different rhythmic subdivisions like eighth notes and triplets and 16th notes, what we're gonna do now is talk about alternate picking. So alternate picking is when you're playing on both sides of the pick or both sides of the string, okay? And it's a really efficient way of picking notes on the guitar. Okay, so that's just kind of an example of what it sounds like, and you can see my hand is playing rhythmically down and up. It's kind of like strumming, right? Strumming up and down, but you're just picking, you're playing, it's a lot smaller of a motion on the right hand. How do you develop that? Well, one thing that a guitar teacher showed me several years ago that really helped me control the movement of my pick in both directions on the string is this thing, I call it the string stopping exercise. So how do you do that? Well, you play a note and then you grab it, you stop it with the pick. It's a right hand only exercise. You stop it with the pick and you grab the string on the other side like this. And I'll turn my amp on so you can hear what it sounds like, but I got a lot of distortion on it. So it certainly doesn't sound very good with distortion, but what that does is it teaches you to pick the width of the string, which is kind of like a hyper articulate way of teaching yourself how to pick. So what I would do is play each string 8 times, maybe even with a metronome, using this string stopping technique. And what you're gonna be training yourself to do is picking the width of every string, and that's gonna prevent you from hitting all of the other strings on the guitar. So let me show you what that looks like. I know that sounds absolutely unbearably awful, but when you hear those harmonic sounds coming out of your pick, that means you're doing it right. So you don't want to really mute your strings. You want to just let them ring. You can, of course, play with a clean sound, but it's really just dividing and conquering and focusing only on the right hand for a while so that you can, get good at playing guitar with your right hand, and then you can throw in the left hand and get the other stuff going. All right, so another exercise that really helped develop my right hand is this exercise. I just call it guitar drums. So what you can do is you can just tie like an old sock around your guitar neck, or get one of these like Groove Gear fret muters. These are really fun. And you're just gonna put it down the neck, and then you're just going to jam on the guitar with your right hand only, moving from string to string, playing eighth notes, triplets, 16th notes. You can start on your lowest string and move to the highest and move back, but eventually you're going to want to just be totally free and just experiment with different patterns and different rhythmic subdivisions. So let me just kind of demonstrate that at 120 so you can kind of see what that looks like. So check it out. Okay, so I know it sounds unbearably awful, but just focusing on your right hand can really help you develop a lot more quickly than if you're just suffering trying to play music and it's just not working out for you. So stop playing music and just work on the technique alone with your right hand, and then go back to playing music, and I guarantee you it'll be a heck of a lot easier for you. Okay, so now that you've learned how to hold the guitar pick, you've messed around with the string stopping exercise, you've been playing guitar drums for a while, I think it's time to get into this alternate picking thing. So how do you do that? Well, let's just go back to the metronome, and we're going to play an open E string, and we're going to play some 16th notes at 120. So let's try that. And again, if 120 is too fast, just slow it down, okay? Slow it down to a comfortable tempo where you can control the down-up movement of your pick. Start off by playing on one string, and then you can move it to chords, alternate picking power chords and things like that. So right there, that rhythm, I'm playing 1 E and a 2, 3 E and a 4, 1 E and a 2, 3 E and a 4. You don't necessarily need to know how to count every rhythm that you play, but knowing how to count, it certainly helps you understand what you're playing, and it'll also help you communicate better with drummers, which are difficult people to communicate with. So if you can play all of those different rhythmic subdivisions with a click, it's probably time to start messing around with some drum loops and things like that. And the app that I would recommend that you practice with is kind of an older app. It's called Drum Genius, okay? And I love this app just because of its simplicity. It's basically just a list of a bunch of different drum beats. And there's one in particular that I want to use today to kind of show you some of these things that have to do with metal and djent. Download the drum beat called Rock 15, okay? That's going to be the one that we're going to use, which is the drum beat from the song Pull Me Under by Dream Theater, and it's got some nice double kicks. And we're going to practice playing 16th notes on one string with the palm mute. So let's listen to what that sounds like. Let's check out the beat really quick. And we're going to actually slow it all the way down. So let's try that. You can hear that I'm playing nicely palm muted 16th notes, and anytime I stopped playing, okay, I'm actually using my left hand, the fleshy part of my left hand, to mute in between those stops. So you can practice that. So I'm actually playing an E power chord with my first finger like that. And then I'm using my other fingers to kind of mute. So if I'm gonna go, always placing a finger down in between those chugs, and that's gonna mute my strings. It's super important. The noise gate cannot help you with everything. You do need to know how to manually mute with both hands, right and left hands. So now that we've got into some 16th note chugging, what I'm gonna do now is just make up some simple patterns to play against that drum beat. So check this out. I could go on and make up a billion different things, but just being able to play simple 8th notes, simple 16th notes with single strings, alternate picking, and playing power chords. You don't need to program some insane drum beats unless you're already really good at that. But if you're just trying to learn guitar and you're just trying to get into this modern metal djent thing, you really don't want to become a computer programmer. You want to just learn how to play. Just a simple app with a repetitive drum beat like the one that I'm showing you here is, in my opinion, the best way to get into this. All right, so what we're going to talk about next, now that we understand what 8th notes are, what 8th note triplets are, what 16th notes are, we've got some palm muting going on. We're alternate picking against power chords and against single notes. What we're going to want to do is to grab some simple patterns and repeat those patterns over the bar line. And what that's going to do is sort of create this almost jarring rhythmic kind of thing. And that's what djent is known for. So finding some kind of tasty little treat and then repeating that over the bar line in interesting ways is how we make cool music. So I'm going to speed the metronome up, or I'm going to speed the drum groove up a little bit, and then I'm going to start experimenting with some riffs over the bar line, and you kind of get what I'm talking about with this. This is where, you know, the fusion of biology and science and machines start to come together. So here we go. Okay, so admittedly, that is not my best guitar playing. You could probably make about 1 billion memes out of how bad that was, but you get the idea. The concept is what I'm trying to get over to you. Coming up with a simple pattern and repeating it, leaving a little bit of space, can help you generate some interesting time and some just general interest in the music that you're playing, and then you can further develop that. As you can hear, a simple double bass drum beat is really all you need. You don't need a hyper complex drum pattern to play along to, or at least to practice and experiment with. All right, so once again, I'm gonna speed up the metronome and further experiment with the playing over the bar line, odd time kind of stuff. So let's check that out. Thanks so much for checking out my video on Djent guitar playing. I hope you were able to get some helpful and pertinent information around how to get the playing style under your fingers. Stay tuned because I'm gonna put some more videos out on this topic. So I'm gonna actually show you how to make a Djent tone with the Line 6 Helix platform as well as the Yamaha THR practice amps. They're both incredible pieces of gear. You can get really high-level guitar tones out of both of those things, and I'm going to show you how to make all of that stuff. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please smash the like button, turn on the notifications, and subscribe to this channel. I'm looking forward to bringing you a slew of video content this year, so feel free to give me some feedback or ask questions in the comment section below. Take care and have a fantastic day wherever you are at. Bye-bye.